right, so on today's episode of So You Wanna, we're gonna do something a little different in that we're gonna get artsy today, and this is something that Clueless co-host Frank is actually starting out the episode, which is also something different. I'm not artsy. Jason, our usual host, is also not artsy.
Excuse me?
Wow, drag.
Not in the traditional sense, in that like we're talking about opera today. So, it's an art form that definitely seems a little esoteric. It seems like something that was only really happening hundreds of years ago. It seems like an art form that not very many people know about. I was on Jeopardy, and they sometimes even on a show about nerds, where nerds are flexing, their nerdy prowess. They also make a joke that opera is something that nobody actually knows about.
Hold on, you were on Jeopardy?
Yes, I was. We'll have an episode about that. I know everybody's clamoring to hear about it. So today, our guest is librettist and stage director Bea Goodwin, who is actually writing operas, doing really awesome feminist adaptations, ghost stories, historical stories, bringing opera into the new era, the 21st century. And I've seen several of her productions. She is incredible, and we're really, really happy to have her on the show.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
So, as I was kind of alluding to in that intro, opera is not really something that very many people even get to experience in their lifetimes. Just it might be, financial constraints, buying tickets, might be geographical constraints. I know even about 6 months ago, Timothée Chalamet ended up in some hot water with saying that
our entire community. Yes.
Yes, yeah, because he said that art forms such as opera and ballet were, dying or just really not something that, many people are interested in, continuing or getting into. But here you are doing it. And so how do you feel about, opera as an art form and kind of, its place in the cultural zeitgeist right now?
Sure. So, yeah, Timothée Chalamet did say that thing that everyone got real angry about and was on SNL 2 times, which was kind of cool. But anyway, yeah, opera. 0 people out of 10 are like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about when you say that you are an opera librettist. Wow, never seen an opera, don't really know about it. And it's exactly why. Like, it has been such an intimidating, gatekeepy art form for so long. And I think that once it came over here and American composers and librettists started to write distinctly American stories, then it kind of began to break down the barriers, which introduced and permitted us to reimagine different operas, take them out of the parameters in which we have known them and place them in contemporary times and make them way more accessible to everyone. And yeah, people are coming out. It's a tall order, like a lot of operas are 3 hours. You're asking someone to pay money to sit and watch something in a different language and actively listen, read super titles, and piece together what is going on amidst really insane spectacle. And it's a heavy lift. It is. But I think people, as they a lot of people are embracing analog and experiences. I think in a post-COVID world especially, that people are really kind of figuring out what community is and what activities people go to. They're trying new things. And I don't think opera's going anywhere. I really don't.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that, it's Jason and I went to go see Porgy and Bess at the Metropolitan Opera.
Fun fact, I was going to jump into this before, but the first live performance that Frank and I ever went to see was Porgy and Bess.
Together,
Porgy and Bess
The
was
Met.
my first opera at the Met.
Yeah, it's I thought it would be a really amazing kind of entry point because I was like, this one's in English and it was written, in the 1900s. It's not that old. And however, the very first song, Summertime, I know that song and I know the lyrics to that song. Meanwhile, just the performance style was still such that I genuinely was like, oh wait, I still need to look at the subtitles.
Yeah. No, well, first of all, a lot of people are like, oh, you write opera. You must not write in English. And I'm like, no, I do. But because of the placement of the words, you still absolutely need the super titles. So it's not you.
Yeah,
It's us.
but it's like it was a really different kind of experience, and it was something that, it seemed, some people aren't into foreign films because you have to read the subtitles. Some people aren't into, kind of heavier lifts like that, like you mentioned. But once we got into it, like I was like, oh, this is pretty immersive. And my attention was really being held because I was, focusing on the super titles. I was focusing on the music. I was focusing on the spectacle. That in a age where your attention is constantly being pulled by a bajillion things at once, by social media, by your phone, by just what's going on around you. It was nice to just kind of be like fully immersed in something for 3 hours.
It's like back to basics, like you're just like watching a story. When you're on your couch and you're watching a film or something, like you have your phone next to you, you're always cognizant. But I feel like in opera, particularly above musical theater, it's so immersive and in your face. It's so larger than life that like you really abandon all sense of everything else that is like tethering you to this world. You really do.
It's cool.
I feel like we were almost spoiled in that our first opera was at the Met, because that is truly like just the scale and the performance. And then thinking about it, we also went to dinner at the restaurant there. Like it's a whole like outing at Lincoln Center, everything.
It's so special.
And then on top of it, to know that these performers are part of a company that performs, I don't know how many productions over the course of a season, that they all have in their, in their library of work that they can just perform essentially on a dime.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
so impressive. And not to mention when you watch on PBS, like the whole behind the scenes of the Met with like all the scenery of how they move it up and down. Like it is just beyond what's on the stage. It's just such a large scale production that's so magnificent.
And it's such a beautiful point of accessibility, right? Like when we're saying that we're trying to strip financial barriers down, how much is it to go see the PBS broadcast? If you have it on at home, that's one thing, but going to a theater, like it's like $14, it's $15, and you could see the full opera. And like there's some like famous singers that will like announce different like behind the scenes stuff. I think it's wonderful. So yeah, I think that people do acknowledge that this has been like price, class, elitism has been, a barrier to entry. And we're really kicking that down in any way we can.
I will give a shout out to the Theater Development Fund. That's actually how we got our tickets.
TDF, yes.
Yeah, being under 30. That was the category that I qualified for.
Yeah.
I think you qualified for too at the time.
Is it still like 30 under 30, where it's like $30 for?
I don't know. It wasn't quite that. Okay. That might be directly through the Met. They might have that. But TDF, in terms of accessibility, like just there were so many shows. We saw it for less than $60.
Amazing. And I believe at the Met, by the way, if they're doing a production, if they're still in tech, you could go for free if they're like doing particular tweaks and stuff, and you just like sit through all of it and watch, and that's special as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so clearly you're very, very passionate about this art form. It's like contagious, honestly. But let's back it up. How did you get into this? Like, talk about your background and how you decided to, pursue this art form.
Sure. So I went to school for directing, and that's what I really, really wanted to do. Very long story short, I was into performance, but then I really longed to be on the other side of the table. After I graduated college, I got into this one program at Columbia University. Their MFA directors hire a troupe of actors to go into their classes. And when I was accepted as an actor into that, I was seeing all of the notes that the directors were getting, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think that this is really solidifying what I want to do. So from that, I got an opportunity to go up to Marlborough College in Vermont, which has like a huge classical music scene. It has like a pretty famous festival that goes through there. You'll see some vinyls that have like pressings from those festivals. And I was offered to stage direct an opera in English. And I, of course, was like very nervous. I was like, I have never seen an opera. I don't know anything about it. But I was kind of assured by a mentor that it would be very akin to a musical. There were just like some different anchoring point differences that, I learned along the way. And all of these people have done musical theater before. I mean, hello, high school. Like that's where they learned it. They didn't like wake up and, exit middle school and like I'm gonna do Bohème. Like no, like they did the Music Man first. So anyway, I went up there. It was like the most amazing contract. I had so much fun. They loved. No, granted, of course, I want to say I had so much to learn about their turf, but they loved me integrating like all of the theatricality, because a lot of stage directors in opera were just once singers that have aged out. So they didn't get like someone dorky from drama school who's like, well, like, let's do this where you're like smashing stage glass and walking around it. Like it was just like a completely different a different play than they're used to. And we had so much fun. I was immediately granted an opportunity to direct in Italian at a theater company in New York for the summer. And I went to that interview and I was like quite nervous, but they said, they were like, you're the most prepared person that we have had out of it. And I was like, I think because I cared so much and I just knew, like, I was fully transparent about, like, I directed one thing in English. This I know will be hard, but we all tell stories. And I just had the most wonderful time. I assistant directed this brilliant performer, Kyle Fort Miller, who has been like a lead at the Met before. He directed the main stage and I did the scenes program, and it was really wonderful. And from there, I just like, I didn't stop. I just was going from gig to gig to gig to gig. And the breadth of opera is so wild, right? So like you could stage direct something from the 1600s, one contract, and then do like Madame Butterfly was like written in like the early 1900s, you know? So it's like there is quite a breadth. Like opera really covers so many different like sonic aesthetics and just like so many different things. So yeah, that's kind of how it all started. I was like Alice in Wonderland falling into the one production, and then I was like, this is where I live now.
When did you start then, like, writing them?
Okay, so the first opera that I had referenced was written by a new and upcoming composer, Felix Gerard. And this was 11 years ago at this point. He texted me the other day. He was like 11 plus with a heart. and I was like, I think I could do that. Like, I've always loved writing, and I'm pretty good at picking up a formula. I could like really trace a character's trajectory. Opera's kind of like an epic poem. It's not like a play, and it's not like a musical. It's like you're really tracing like a hero's journey, like one person going through it from start to finish. And I was like, I really feel like I could handle that. So we just did this insane little pet project called Tabula Rasa that turned into this sold out run of Opera Fest in 2018 that I was like, there's no turning back after this. Like, you and I have to just crank it out. The reception was people were so excited that we were just doing new and innovative things. It was in a warehouse with 6 different sets where people walked around and saw the different vignettes that formed a story.
It sounds like a Sleep No More production that was like actually creative and good.
So wait, can I please tell you, this is so funny. So during the pandemic, I worked with 8 of the original Sleep No More members, and we did immersive murder mysteries in different like hotels because like all the theaters were shut down. So one of the illusionists from Speakeasy Magic hired a bunch of us to like do these pop-up performances here and there. And like, yeah, like learning from them, it was so incredible, like so insane. So yeah, again, like I think that like my always like being a sponge for different art forms. Like I'm always going to different galleries. I love film, seeing different things. It only helps the art form. And, you know, just going back to what you said before, Frank, about like people don't like it or something, right? Like I always am trepidatious of saying like, I don't like something. I try to always say like, I don't like this now. So people might not like foreign films now because it's just like a little too much for them. But like they might in a few years really develop that. Like I did not love film until I lived in Los Angeles for 8 years, where like I got a whole entire education and like imprint on this like art form in American culture. So yeah, I challenge people to think, I don't like this now. You might not like opera now, but maybe after this podcast you will. Who knows?
Yeah, right.
So when I think of operas, I always think of giant companies, which is just like, I happen to know your background that you did direct some High School Musicals, right? Which are also like
soaring, flying. It's not a star in heaven I didn't reach.
But like, right, like High School Musicals, it's always like you gotta get butts in the seat, so you need a giant chorus, right? Where like we see a lot of shows that are plays and whatnot that can be smaller cast, maybe only one person, whereas operas are just like a behemoth of a production, regardless of like local or the Met, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a behemoth, it's a giant company.
Giant orchestra.
Like, how do you manage directing something like that? Where
Yeah.
it's just like you have to get everybody like literally on the same note, like
For
moving
sure.
forward
For
with
sure.
a giant ass company.
Yeah, and it's really incredible because like the size of the orchestra, there could be something small like a chamber opera, which I think people really do enjoy because it like it's more manageable. It's like I believe a chamber opera could be called like under 25 instruments and well, it's
Under
like well,
25, it's
between like 5 and 25,
Yeah.
right? And like where it's like you're stripping it down and like that's like a little less scary and you're able to like hear the words a bit more. But yeah, it is quite a huge endeavor. So I'll tell you like the largest like feather in my cap was this again was in 2018. I stage directed the first production of a lost Salieri opera from the 1700s. So my boss was able to get the manuscript from Austria and he transcribed every single note of every character of every instrument for 2.5 hours. And I learned the score from him singing on voice memos. Okay? Because like I'm reading this and like I can't follow along with anything, you know, like I mean I could read music to an extent, but something where it's like the soprano needs to be listening to the flute to come in, like I am not that skilled. So I would listen to him sing on the voice memo and play the reduction on the piano that he created, and I staged from that. And it was the most gratifying experience of my life because it had never been done. It's like, so if you go to Opera America in their archives, I'm the only production that exists of it. You could watch the tape.
So cool.
But that was a behemoth orchestra, huge. And like to know that like literally we went from Salieri's Pen to La Mama on East 4th and choreographing all of that, it was crazy. And it was liberating because it was scary and liberating at the same time because no one had left their imprint on it, right? Like everyone's trying to do something different with like Don Giovanni or Traviata, but this it's like, oh my gosh, it's a complete blank slate. I could do anything I wanted. So I did like Commedia dell'arte with it. So each of the leads were clowns and they were clowning through the show and it was just so beautiful. Oh my gosh, one of the reviews was like the director gave the piece more credit than it deserved, that it like needed to be lost. But like it was just so crazy that like, you know, there's some musical scholars are like, yeah, maybe he shoved it in a locker and was like, I hate this. This should never see the light of day. And here we are celebrating it because it's something that like, you know, we don't know Mozart's flops. Like they're, you know, it's so crazy. But yeah, juggling all of it is like quite an endeavor, but it's so exciting. And there's so many people that like uplift you, the costuming department, stage management, production, that like you're all just like, you're all dorks together. It's like, it's literally like drama school, but like all grown up.
Yeah. When I think of operas, like even the Met, it just seems, not hating on Broadway, but professional musical theater has become so commercialized. And I know there's like a referendum to the point where like now, like the orchestra is listening to a click track and it's
Which is
like,
insane.
this is cheating. Like this
Yeah.
is not what it was. And like, I'm waiting for the point where we have like actors on stage listening to a click track too. But like, it's coming. Like we can tell that that's the direction we're headed.
For sure.
Especially when we have like, you know, named leads that are like big showstoppers just flying in for like a 2-week stint. Like, yeah, they're going to need a click track or something to like get in and out. That's just how commercialized. But the operas I've seen and what I've seen behind the scenes, like it's still so much of a return to the art form in its purest
Absolutely.
state,
Absolutely.
which is like what you're talking about, where it's like transcribing from hand from a score from Austria.
It's so much of like historical like base what we do. And you know, people who do come see the opera, and I'm curious about you guys choosing to see Porgy and Bess, like I think some people almost view it as like could be seen as like a sporting event because like it's like an Olympic feat what they do with their
Yeah.
voices. So like to see that and experience that, and again, like I don't know if everyone knows this, but like they don't sing with microphones.
Yep.
None of them. So when you're hearing that up in the stratosphere, that person is so far away from you, unmiked. It is incredible what they could do.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Not to mention, like I saw there was on another podcast, they were talking about like theater in general and in New York City, like 8 shows a week and even like regional theater and how people are just like jumping out of conservatory programs and going straight to that and struggling and all the swings, which like love our swings. But it's just because, again, the commercialization
Mhm.
and like nobody's building up the endurance.
Mhm.
We're like, that's not an option at the Met. If you're
No.
part of the Met company, like you have to have that endurance because
sure.
you don't have the mics and you're doing, I don't know that they do 8 shows a week, but
No, and like there's different choruses, right? Like
Yeah.
there's like some that learn like these particular shows, other ones that learn a different set. So yeah, they do protect them and their voices. There's no such thing. Like people will be like, "Oh, the run of your show is so short," and it's like, yeah, that's standard for opera because it would just be bad.
Yeah.
Be bad for them.
yeah, it's really a return to like pure staged art.
Yes.
And not, we're like pulling back from some of the things. And even I think about, I saw at the Paper Mill. Love the Paper Mill. We're
Love the Paper
subscribers,
Mill.
right?
Yes.
But the Hunchback of Notre Dame
Yeah, amazing.
that Disney premiered there,
Mhm.
which had a 30-member chorus,
Mhm.
opera, etc., hasn't made the jump to Broadway because I'm sure Disney is like, we can't make this work financially
Mhm.
with having to compensate a 30-member chorus.
For sure. And like, can't they make more money? Like taking people who just got out of college and doing it in Texas, where like we'll take little Susie's birthday party there and buy every single T-shirt and every single water bottle, and like they find that more financially gratifying than doing it on
Yeah.
Broadway.
But the show is like phenomenal.
It's
in
phenomenal.
its purest form,
It
right?
really
But
is.
it's like, it's kind of that mix between musical theater, opera that I think is like even more accessible. And it's just
I will
Like-
absolutely agree. Absolutely.
like Disney, you got to do it. Like
Mhm.
on Broadway, it's so deserving of it. Like,
Did you guys get to see The Outsiders?
no.
Okay,
yet.
that is incredible. That was like the most like recent thing that I had seen that like just fully excited me to my core. They just were so in it. The choreographer from Sleep No More did all their choreography. So you know those fight sequences and everything were insane. Like there's a car on stage, they're flipping off of that. Like between all the effects, again, extremely operatic in scope. There's a bunch of them on stage. Yeah, I'm like, why? I don't know. I mean, we know why. We know why.
I
We're
know.
not going to scratch our heads and go, why, oh, why? Well, if they
We're-
bring it, it all goes down to money. It all does.
It's so, and it's sad. And I know this is not the thesis of this episode, like the commercialization, but we see it. Like Broadway is struggling.
hmm
And so many shows are opening for such short stints. And how many times are we going to see shows? And it's just like, oh my God, get the red pen. Like this should have been workshopped. I don't know
Mhm.
why we thought,
Well, okay. So let's go back because I find so many times in my process when I am writing, there is not enough time to edit because of the money. They'll say like we're pressing the gas, and I'm like, I am not comfortable with this. I'm not comfortable with this product that is about to go out. We need another read, and like they just like feign I can't afford that, and therefore you will be spending money on something that like no one's really thrilled with. That has been a problem
and then
too.
that just doesn't help though, because
Nothing
then we're
helps.
not getting, it's hurting itself because at that point we're not getting productions out there
Mhm.
that then are able to sustain.
Yes, no, absolutely. And like, in school, we're coming from these like roundtable discussions where we're really getting into it. Everyone is like a part of an ensemble. And then we all go out on our own. It's like, oh, I need to churn this out. You want to premiere it in 9 months. And I have to start now writing it and then hand it off to someone to do the music and then a designer to see if any of this is possible. I wrote this one opera that someone had asked me to adapt a fairy tale, and it involved like 3 puppets, and I was like, am I cutting that so we don't do that, or what are we doing? So yeah, there's just so many things that really need discussions, like in person. We look at each other, discussions, and that involves time. That people think that if I'm only paying you X amount, I'm not going to ask you to meet and be in constant like communication, but like, please do, because my name's on that at the end. So yeah, again, not the takeaway, but like we all could really be doing like a better job across the board as artists, like advocating for what we are worth and what our names sit on at the end of the day. For sure.
Okay, so let's break it down into like the technical components here
Cool.
of an opera.
Yeah.
So I know
Typical engineer. We're going to break down the process.
I know. I love it. I'm like cog in the machine.
so
Let's go.
the correct me if I'm wrong, the libretto is essentially like the words, like it's the analogous to like the book of a musical.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes like I'll just say like I write the book and the lyrics.
Okay, cool. And then like the music, is there like a special term for like the music, or is it just
I mean, score, composition,
Okay, cool.
composer, yada yada.
So you're a librettist.
Yes.
Okay. So what usually comes first?
Oh, me.
Okay.
I always come first, baby. So it could happen one of two ways typically. One, I will pitch an idea. Like, this is what I really want to do, blah, blah, blah. I think it would be great for your company, la, la, la.
Who are you pitching it to? Like
To different opera companies or like different commissioners. This is something I'll put together a one sheet that really describes the thesis of the piece, how many people involved, how large the orchestra would be, yada, yada. And then they would give me the go ahead or not. Or a company would approach me with an idea and I would decide whether or not I think that I am the right fit for it. Or sometimes a composer will court me and say like, hey, I'm getting this commission to write something. Would you write the lyrics to it? And again, I say yes or no. So yeah, it typically starts with me. I have a focus on, as you said before, I love examining the trajectory of women in the canon of opera. Is bad, is not.
That sounds so like coastal liberal elite arts.
Yeah, no, I know. Let me explain. The formula of an opera, Verismo period on, which is like turn of the century, is the lead soprano goes crazy, has a mad scene, and must die for one indiscretion or another, be it her, of a choice that she made or a choice that the world of the opera has made for her. And
The Scarlet Letter.
yes, absolutely. She wears this mark and eventually throws a fit about it, and then end of opera with her dying a lot of the time, and that pisses a lot of people off. It again is a barrier for people. Like we've talked a lot about like the classism and financial barrier, but we also talked about the content that can be very triggering to people to watch that for X amount of hours. And I really like to examine pieces that empower women, that they're really using their agency and it doesn't become their demise. And what I want to say is opera clearly is not distinctly American, right? Musical theater is distinctly American. So what is the ID of an American opera? And I've chosen to like kind of look at blots in history that are kind of under rug swept and create a piece off of that. So for example, a piece that I recently wrote that is going up next season in Landlocked Opera in Missouri. They used to have donut queen competitions during the World Wars where a gaggle of girls would come and stuff their faces with donuts and they would buy war bonds, etc. I wrote an opera about that. So it's like lights up. There's 6 women and one like Uncle Sam type guy making commentary on American pageantry, how a woman views her body, et cetera, like things that like I view that are like distinctly American. My fiance and I have a Roswell opera in the works about like othering people and alienization, things like that. So yeah, things that are like very distinctly American ideas I love to zone in on and make opera there. And I think that would like change the discussion and discourse on like what new and contemporary opera is. So like Frank, if you're trying to decide what opera to see and one of the items on the menu was Donut Queen, a donut eating competition opera, would you be like, wow, that seems like it's a little bit too much of a heavy lift for me? No, like it's like I want
Well, America runs on Dunkin', so
Yeah,
like,
there we
isn't
go.
that?
there we go. I'll get
We
a
love our
sponsorship.
donuts.
Yes. So yeah, I'm trying to create those like fun little things as well that like people would be like, huh, I want to try that out. I want to see that. Because why be all you could integrate highbrow qualities into those moments, right? Like there's some like really ugly moments in the Donut Queen where like he's selling war bonds on the side to each of the women and they're like all going against one another and like thinking they're being like patriotic, and like yeah, there's like a lot of commentary on like what it is to be a patriot and what it is to care about your nation and like what you're doing at this moment in time. So yeah, you can integrate that. You don't always have to like lead with that. And I feel like a lot of people are like, "Oh, I am an opera creator. Everything must be, the heft of King Lear." And it doesn't have to be. Like, Shakespeare got a little ratchet too. So like Mozart got ratchet, Like people are like, again, scared of opera. I'm like, Le Nozze is like the gayest thing in the world. Like Mozart's Marriage of Figaro is like, yeah, they're all in drag, having a great time. So yeah, I mean, that's that.
So some logistics.
Yeah, tell me.
For a logistics queen over here. What is like the end runtime of your opera? And then like this one, Donut Queen.
Mm-hmm.
And then how long does it take you to write something that is of that length?
Sure. So any of my operas range from about like 70 minutes to 2 hours and 45 minutes. There have been some long ones. But so for instance, the ones that are on the shorter side, both Madam and Hindsight are like, they sit at about like a little between an hour and 90. That's like only 15 pages. Isn't that crazy? Because like I have to give the composer the leanest, most like streamlined story possible so they can create so many different textures and ideas on top of it. If I give them something that's like way too complex, it gets murky. The waters get a little bit too like it's not fun to swim in. So like,
is it like when you say 15 pages, is it written like 15 pages written like a book or an essay, or is it like with stage directions and all that?
Yeah, and I'm someone that is heavy on the stage directions. Any composer that I've worked with say that like I give more stage directions than others because I think I started out as a director and I know how much time in like things have to sit with. So if like someone is having a moment where she's like waiting for her dad to come and he doesn't show up, I want that distinctly to look like something. If I don't specify in the stage direction like the agony in which she is waiting for her father and he doesn't walk through the door, then they might just set that in 30 seconds where I'm like, no, I want it like an uncomfortable amount of time and I know how that's going to look. So yeah, like that's like 15, 16 pages with all of those stage directions. It's a pretty lean package that I have
thought
to
you were
do.
going to say like 100 pages.
No, so that's the thing. Like, that's what's so, like, I'll say to people, writing musical theater is a million times harder than writing opera. Like, sure, I must overwrite and edit, but, like, it's so difficult to, like, achieve everything that I have to do while giving the composer room to really shine and fly. Because at the end of the day, and, like, this is just how it is, the opera will be known with the composer. Like if like, you're thinking of any opera, like say Porgy and Bess, we don't really remember the writer on it, like it's just like insert composer's name here. So that's typically the formula. I have to really be in a tight relationship with the composer, the back and forth, and we need to trust one another, like wholeheartedly. Trust fall off the Empire State Building. But let's all get engaged up there.
I was going to say, wedding proposal included first.
Oh my God.
So when you're writing the libretto, do you have any idea of like what you would even want the music to sound like? Or is it totally separated from the music and then you just give it to the composer?
Okay, so I do. Like, I know what I want it to sound like. And I'll
And
always
it's the
say,
composer like, cut it out. This is my job.
so many times they'll be like, no, don't sing it to me. Don't sing it to me. And I'll like, and if they're like, oh, I'm having trouble with this area, I'm like, well, like, I could like sing it a little bit for you if you want. But like, yeah, I just typically like, so like, I always use Felix as an example because again, like 11 plus. And I'll just say to him, like, I'm thinking about like this moment, like, okay, so we have this one opera about New York's first Madam, Polly Adler. It is so gritty. She was like an immigrant from Belarus, and she like upon coming to America gets sexually assaulted in the factory she's working, and her family kicks her out, and she has to have an abortion. And like, I like am writing this scene and I'm like, Felix, like, I think this is it. Like, I really, really love this. And like, sometimes like in like 20 minutes, like no response, LOL. And then he'll just send like the most gorgeous voice memo ever. And like, he's like, I'm thinking like this. And again, it's just all textural. It's not like my words set. It's like, just like, this is the atmosphere. This is what that feels like. And I'm like, yes, that's what it is. And when you like find your person, it kind of is like, it is like a marriage. Like, it's like, you know, like where it's like, you get me, like you get how I feel about this situation well beneath the page. So yeah, it's crazy. So that, yeah, like that's like, I don't write the music at all.
It seems so interesting that like interplay that you have to have with the composer, because you're writing the story and the feeling and whatnot, and not necessarily writing all of it right down. And like the composer, you know, is like, leave me alone to a certain extent. Like, I need some freedom. But then they're thinking and like kind of, you know, playing it out maybe, or to come up with these like ideas, these sonic themes that aren't even set to the words yet. And then you have to somehow come to this like common composition.
Absolutely. And like, so much of like, what I really have to be in discussion with is pacing, right? So like, I know like story-wise, like there's a pace that has to be achieved. And sometimes if they like want to like linger in like one particular aria because they think it's so beautiful, I'm like, no, like we need to go, because then it looks like the story is lagging. So yeah, like you have to have that back and forth of what they like and what they think sounds real pretty to like, we got to step on the gas.
Yeah, which then, sorry, I'm dominating, but I'm just so intrigued by all of this, because then I can just think of like when I did musical theater in high school and college, of like, we had works that were already done, had been performed a bunch of times, right? Like maybe we had seen them 2 or 3 times. Company was one we did at Hopkins. And I remember there were like a couple times where it's just like, had done it in rehearsal. Now the orchestra was there. We were doing the sets pro, and it's like, this is not working. Like, we have to. And that was work that had been established. Like, and we had like the confines of like, this is the story and this is the music. Like, this is what you have to work with. So you got to fix the staging, lighting, scenery. Like, this is on you.
Yep.
But like when you're getting to the, you know, final dress rehearsals or just before that, like you still have so much freedom and flexibility. It's almost like overwhelming, like a diner menu where it's like, okay, this isn't working.
It's all the Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah, but
like you go in with maybe the avocado egg rolls, but you're like, there's 17 more pages that you got to go through. Yeah, no, it's crazy. And then like also there's sometimes other people stage direct my works. So like there's like a few operas that I have written that I've never staged before. So I'll watch like the choices that they made, and it's like, wow, oh my gosh, I did not see it like that at all. It's never been like in a bad way. It's just been like that's how you interpret it that way. But yeah, like when everything is so new, it really is like there's so many different like colored markers that you're like, okay, we need to commit with coloring it this way. Yeah, but that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of like a community and like a well-oiled machine all working together. And a lot of people who are originating works, they are like so invested in it. Yeah. When Felix and I were writing Hindsight, which is a love story of Leopold and Loeb that we did to like a sold out crowd in Chicago. It was so much fun. But like the 2 guys who played the killers, like they were, since like the first aria, they were like in it. They were in development. They were like, they read about these people and were like, well, I think that like, you know, Leopold really like bent to Loeb for these reasons. And I would be like, that's interesting. And like even be rewriting some things like that were not strictly set. So it is like, it's really a beautiful thing.
When you were talking about stage directing, you know, the no longer lost opera that you had talked about earlier, versus, your own work that you write. What do you, all of this, do you prefer to stage direct your own work? Do you prefer to stage direct others' work? Do you prefer to just write and like let others stage direct? Like, what's your favorite part of this whole ecosystem?
I do love it all. I find enjoyment in all of it. Like, it's such a challenge to reimagine very, very, very old things. Like, I mean, I directed an opera that I think was written in like 1602, and that was like wild to really delve into. But above all else, I love staging my works. I really do. I feel like I just like, this sounds terrible. Like they're like a part of you, and like you shepherd them to life, and then you have to like let it go. But like I like to be like the conduit of that. Like I love to like liaise all of that happening, because yeah, it has been like really crazy to be like, oh my god, I wrote this thing and I get to watch someone else their interpretation of it. Like,
And
yeah.
hope for the best.
Yeah,
Like-
no, but it's all like really, really been wonderful. I'm spoiled rotten that I've been in great hands the 3 different times that that's happened. But yeah, I still have not staged those, and I was like, I'm itching to do it. I'm like absolutely itching to do it.
So has there ever been a time where something was just not working? Like, writer's block, or, even like kind of farther down the pipeline and like, a disagreement with the composer or anything like that. And like, how did you navigate that?
Well, I feel like there's different challenges in like a lot of those different circumstances. And it also is contingent upon like what the product is. So like there's like, you could get a commission from a singer, like, will you write me a song? And that sometimes that could be arguably more challenging than a full work, because you have to like show all your tricks and everything in like such like a condensed period of time, instead of like the slow burn and the build up and whatnot. It's hard because everyone can write a story, right? But not everyone could write music. But not everyone could write a story well.
Mhm.
And it's sometimes hard for the composer to surrender to, these are my parameters, not like, well, will you change this, 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 and this? And like, if you do this, I could do that. And like, sometimes you have to stand your ground and be like, no, like, it has to be this way. It has to be this way for the payoff in Act 2, Scene 10, for us to like wrap the whole thing. You have to like really defend and assess every single thing on the page, and the stage directions really, really help that. They really do, because they're like almost like your backbone with that. Like, it's like, because I wrote here, this is what needs to be achieved in the scene, and I think it could only be achieved this way. Of course, there's so many give and takes, right? Because like, let's play the other side of the coin. I would just be a playwright if I didn't want to play ball with anyone else. Like, I don't go in and say like, this is how it's gonna be. Like, there are times that I'm like, yeah, okay, like I'll make this longer, I'll adjust this, but like there are times where I'm just like, no, this isn't working. It is way too long. Because a lot of composers like to repeat for one way or another, to like tie things together, to even probably
Sonic themes.
Yes,
right?
and like even the math, like so much of writing music is
Yeah.
math, and like they have to achieve something, and it's like, well, it just doesn't sound good. Like there's this one singer that I worked with, she's so fabulous, and she saw a new opera, and she said it sounded like the libretto was scotch taped on top of the score. So I'm like, that is like literally the most perfect way of describing it, right? That it's like they just didn't care. Like, it was just words. They
Yeah.
wrote the piece that they wanted to anyway, and boop, let me just put the words in there.
Like a complete disconnect from what you were saying with like the feeling,
Yes,
and like the vibes,
absolutely.
and that's a really I think what you said about the interplay between the librettist and the composer is really interesting, and how you use the stage directions to also impart feeling onto the words, such that then it allows the composer to create those same feelings with music,
Absolutely.
which is a really, really interesting interplay, and like you said, contrasting it with musical theater, in which it's just kind of, it's longer, it's less like distilled. The story is less distilled to like its purest form, with what you're doing as like a librettist. where-
Absolutely. Like I always say that like an opera libretto is like, if you view it in terms of Shakespeare, it is like one plot line. Like if Shakespeare's like playing with 3 or 4, this is only one. And also when an opera singer sings an aria, there's no exposition in it. It's like you're achieving that in recit or dialogue. And then it culminates to this moment where that for like, upwards of 8 minutes, they are just singing how they feel about it. And then something else happens. So yeah, like you're just like living in these motions where like literally the central conceit of a beautiful aria is not to get us from point A to point B. It's just to hear your emotional response to what has just happened. And that's why I think opera is so special. Like we live in a world where we don't get to sit back and be like, something happened and I need to emotionally digest that. I need to throw my toys about it. I need to wail about it. I need to do something. It's just like, well, I gotta go to shop right now, or I gotta do, but it's like just like here,
I
time
love
stops.
wailing in ShopRite.
Wailing in ShopRite, I love it.
Watermelon, $5.99.
It's catharsis, I'm telling you. But yeah, I just think that it's really special that opera permits that, and the composer has to play ball. That it's like, we're both living in that emotion. Let's make something really beautiful in that time frame.
It's funny that you bring up, wail. I always remember in high school we sang like Gershwin at the opera. It was like a whole like series of his songs and whatnot. And I distinctly remember that we just thought it was so funny that like one of the stylistic notes was like a whale. And,
Yeah.
Just so much. And that's so iconic of opera and all that emotion that you have to play out through the music and such.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, and so to kind of take a turn again, I don't know if you've thought about this or been asked this. So AI, right, is like replacing everything. And I've seen a lot about how this is going to force a return to creativity and art and start to elevate artists as a profession and such. Because what you're talking about with opera, like AI is not replacing that.
No. And that's what was so funny about Timothée Chalamet's remark. And I was like, they'll scrape your voice and you will not have work.
Yeah.
No one is scraping these Met opera singers' voices. Like they can't do it. Like no robot will be able to do Nessun Dorma up at the Met. Like that will never happen. But could someone AI do a ping pong movie and scrape all of your likeness? Yeah, they can. So I'd like kind of watch what I'm saying,
Yeah, like live performance in general. I remember we saw Kimberly Akimbo. Just so happened, TDF again, Miracle. We saw at Orchestra the show after, so the Tuesday after the Tony Awards, where they won Best Musical. That performance, those actors playing off the energy in that room.
It's palpable. Like you could put like one of those tuning rods and it's probably the spin,
And AI would never know that feeling, how to convey it, how to play off the response. Like I remember the lead came out to a standing ovation mid-show.
Because she had also just won the Tony for Best Actress in a Musical. It was, what's her name? Victoria Clark is her name. Yeah. And so that was like one of my favorite musicals ever, just because of like the experience that we were in. Like the musical itself is also really, really incredible. However, like just the theater going experience.
Well, I think that's it. Like experience. Like I can't. I've done VR before. Like I'm not Amish. Like I've done these different things.
I will say, like I know that Lincoln Center, like the library at Lincoln Center, the New York Public Library, they have like everything recorded, right?
Yes, every performance, even, like every single performance, not just like here's that one of it. They do record every single production.
But like it's not I've seen like one or two, and even like the Hamilton recording, right, or live taping, like it's just not the same.
No, it's not.
The energy does not convey through the lens, which like ironically we're doing a podcast where we're conveying through the lens, but like it's just not the same. Like the theater going experience, whether it's opera, musical theater, even plays, for better or worse, right? Like, oh my God, The Kite Runner, great story, but horrible staging with no energy.
I've only heard bad things about it.
Right?
No, for sure.
So like But regardless of what you see,
It gave you something to talk about. Like if you were like watching
that's why you go
AI
to Olive
art or
Garden,
whatever,
baby. You want a bad meal to talk about? You go to Olive Garden.
yes, and you talk about it. I mean, I think that there's some study done that like I'm going to bastardize these numbers, but like we speak like a significant less amount of words to one another now. Like it's so crazy, but again, like yeah, you go to these places to and experience things, and thus you speak about them, and it's just like I shudder to think about that going away. I don't think it will, especially like we're so fortunate to be like right outside the city. I think New Jersey people are way too damn stubborn to ever let anyone take our stuff away from us, you know? But like still, it's scary. It is very scary. Like again, coming from LA, like they are not green lighting shows. AI is taking so many different jobs. It's crazy because my fiance works in animation and they did not greenlight his show for he worked on RoboGobo for 2 seasons, and he's like they're just not greenlighting anything else, and we had to have a serious discussion like do we need to pivot? Like what is happening with animation? Like they're really going to try to just do this with AI instead of like big dorks like us who like, you know, do the colorization and imagine. I hope that imagination and curiosity prevails. I hope that we all like really get through that finish line and keep on going with imagination and creativity and not just like I understand like we talk about AI like it subs for Google, you know, like you used to be able to like ask Google something as a search engine. And like now it's just like all like pathetic and like completely non sequitur, and AI, you know, does it better, but it shouldn't be
sometimes, or it just gives you the wrong
or it just gives you the wrong thing. And like, you need to look at the sources, blah, 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 which probably no one does, but I digress. But it shouldn't be scraping people's music. So like I have like the gamut of like a friend who's like a like singer songwriter, like not blown up yet, but still has like music on Spotify, to my writing mentor who like so many of their songs, because there's a website that you could like, I guess like type in something and it shows you how many songs they've scraped to learn how to write other songs. And it is crazy.
I do just have one last question. Okay. Jason and I end most of the episodes like this. For somebody who's listening who is inspired by your, like I said, contagious passion for opera and wants to get involved in a similar way that you got involved, kind of, you know, just like starting out with directing behind the scenes or even starting out writing something, what advice would you have for somebody who wants to get involved in the world of opera?
What advice would I give? Okay. This is going to sound terrible. Whatever. Here we go. Fake it till you make it. You know, like I want
the whole world is built on faking it till you make it.
I cannot stress enough that I knew nothing in the beginning. I'm one of those people that go, yeah, totally, I could do it. And then I close the bedroom door and I'm eating Doritos and trying to figure out like and navigate things. So always say yes in the beginning if it feels good. And then really do the research and let that research be born out of curiosity and excitement. Watch these live streams. Go to, like, not all operas just at the Met. Like, there is like plenty of small local opera companies that are doing little pop-ups and gardens. There's so much cool stuff. Chamber Queer, which is one of like my favorite groups, just did a pop-up at the Morgan Library after hours. There's so many cool things going on. Meet people, be nice, and yeah, just foster that curiosity, imagination, and let's keep this thing going another 400 years.
And more.
Please. And more.
I'm going to give a little plug here because I think listening to you talk about it and just knowing a little bit more about the industry, I think there are a lot of, I'm going to say, parents who might, having lived this experience to a certain extent, might push their children away from going into careers into the arts.
Yeah.
And I think what I have come to learn even now as I work in somewhat of a creative field, in spite of being told that I'm not an artist by someone at this table.
Wasn't me. Wasn't me.
What I have learned is that there are so many different careers, paths, trajectories to fulfill that passion. it may not be on stage. That may not be. There's a finite number of those seats, right, on stage. But there are so many other pathways to either work directly in the arts, tangentially to the
For
arts,
sure.
that there are careers. And as we said, like AI is coming and taking like the tech bros and the finance bros.
Well, that's what I was
Your
gonna
jobs
say.
are gone.
I was like, is that even a parent's like true concern anymore about like their kids going into the arts? Because like I know plenty of people that are in coding that they're like, oh, AI will take the coding. Accountants, can't you just do all of that glorified through AI anyway? So like there's just so many things that used to be like a tried and true, gee golly gosh, I hope my kid goes into that is like completely gone, that doesn't have anything to do with art anymore. But you're right that like there's so many different fields within arts, but there's also like sit on the board of an organization. Like either of you could like research different like small orchestras and like be like, what would be my give get? Like if I just like sponsored like as low as like $250 a year, like I could make decisions in your programming and like and help out and bolster and like be like, you know, not like again on stage, but you're in the community and you're doing something. There's, you know, I work with dramaturgs, which are like, you know, people who like literally shut themselves away and read the book and then like help me figure out Polly Adler's life. And so I could write my piece in a most streamlined way. There are so many different avenues. And yet just don't, it's so easy to let the world discourage you and the big, massive field that is definitely like an amoeba having like this, like, you know, weird blubbery moment, but just do it. What's the alternative? You sitting on TikTok and watching someone try a concealer for the first time? Like you, in that same amount of time, you could like listen to Traviata and maybe think it's a bop. Yes.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah,
It's true.
it is.
What is the alternative?
And better yet,
Doom scrolling.
you could record yourself listening and then become a creator yourself
There you
and
go.
launch your like bedroom opera series.
Who knows? I mean, yeah, I think what we learned from the pandemic is like there's so many more things within our control with tools that we have. You could, you know, I think it's a great thing. I think it's an empowering thing.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that you guys would necessarily have had this idea to do a sit down podcast if it wasn't for like us learning that we could like do this when we were like sequestered in our house for so long? No.
I mean, even like Ratatouille, the musical, that was literally built out in people's bedrooms, which I will say it was better before Disney got involved.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Like
for sure.
the creators, when they had their own freedom, was so much better.
One
Love you,
opera-
Adam Lambert, but like the original, like was so much better.
One opera company did an entire Hansel and Gretel in Animal Crossing and videoed it. It was so awesome. But again, who would ever think to do that? But here we are now. We're on the other side of that. We're with people talking again. How do we integrate what we do in our houses in like a creative way and not in like a stifling, I give up way?
Yeah.
Learn a new craft.
That's the creativity too that I feel like AI just can never replicate.
It can never take it away
Doing
from us.
Hansel and Gretel in Animal Crossing. Jason and I talked about Kimberly Akimbo, and like I just think that it's based on a play. You know, the playwright then collaborated to make it into a musical. But it was just such a bonkers story where it's like some girl who ages extremely rapidly is coming to like basically the end of her life because of this disease that she has, and wants to go to Disney World, but her parents can't afford it. So she hatches this plot with her like criminal aunt to like commit check fraud. Like literally, like this is the
But again,
story.
like this, like I know it sounds silly, but like this is again like a distinctly American situation. Like I always say, like my two favorite TV shows. This says a lot about me: The Wire and Breaking Bad, because they're two distinctly different American situations. Breaking Bad, where the whole entire plot is a man who can't afford cancer treatment, so he has to sell drugs instead of teach and educate the next generation and make drugs. Like that's like, yeah. And like, look at this. I can't afford something that I should be able to at the end of my life. I think that these stories really resonate with us and we're all living them. Write them down. Are they going to be the greatest thing? No. But like collaborate with people.
And workshopping, we can make them even better.
Yes.
More
Yeah.
workshopping.
And like no AI is ever going to come up with an opera about women doing donut eating competitions
No.
around World War
While some
II.
creep is selling war bonds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
But you know who's coming up with that? Bea Goodwin.
Me.
So, just to wrap it up, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
this was fun.
This was uplifting.
Yes.
Where
We're gonna have
can-
to have you back?
Yeah. Where can people find you on socials, on the internet, and
Okay.
what's up next?
So my website is beagoodwin.com. However, I get far more traction on my Instagram. Like people will be like, hey, let's collaborate. Can I ask you a question? And I love that. Like I don't want to gatekeep anything. So my Instagram handle is a song from Bea. And what's next? I have a few projects kind of like brewing, some like a little like top secret-y situations. So I have the Donut Queen Opera going up in Landlocked Opera in June of next year. And then I just finished, my fiance and I translated the Magic Flute for an opera company in Jersey City, the Undead Arts and the New Jersey Symphony. And they are working on developing it into it being performed every single year. So we're still like slowly working on that and tweaking. Again, like the first run was a run. We figured that Heath and I talked about what worked, what didn't, and then we want to remount it again next summer. And then some other little things. There's a piece that some of my pieces that I work on are in the forms of poetry, and then I create lyrics out of them. And I'm working on a piece right now called Some Are Tigers, These I Tame, and it is about women in asylums. So that is something that I have been feverishly working on and then distilling lyrics from that to give to Felix. So yeah, it's a time.
Awesome. Thank you
So
so much, Bea.
interesting.
This was so cool. Thanks for joining us. Really,
Thank
really
you for
appreciate it.
having me.